Get your stinking rat out. It's late night large.
Welcome to the Handforth Parish Council Extraordinary Meeting. Questioning your authority is me, Aaron Bliss, and not understanding the standing orders is Mike Large. How we doing, Mike? Or Brittany?
No comprende.
No comprende. How we doing?
Yeah, all right. How's it dangling?
Low and lazy to the left?
Low, lazy and to the left, is it? All right, okay.
Yeah. Similar
Okay, fair enough.
to yourself. How's your week been?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how to answer this any differently to how I answer it every week, because the answer is always the same. Shit. No, do you know what?
Something.
I'll give you something. All right.
Give our loyal viewers something to chew on. No matter what way I frame.
What are you doing? Are you tearing me up here? I don't get it. What?
Well, there you go. At least look, everyone. I put a smile on Mike's face. So my work here is
Willies. Yeah. No. Do you know what? It's been all right, isn't it? It's just been another week in lockdown.
Yeah, we've had I don't know. In terms of weather, we've had something that I'm sure you're familiar with, Mike. A big disappointment. In terms of, we were told there was going to be blizzards and deep snow and gale force winds, and we got the shittest example of, I don't know, a dusting of flour and I guess gale force winds. So it's freezing cold, but we know it had no real snow. So
yeah, so I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah, I get the whole.
I know you're a Grinch.
Yeah, I don't want no fucking snow. I didn't want any snow. The snow that we had was too much for me. I can deal with it. Fine. I don't really feel the cold, actually. So I actually do quite well in the cold. It's fine. It's not that. It's just the inconvenience.
Well, you just want to shit on everyone's inner child, don't you, really? That's what it's about.
Yes, I do. Yeah. I want to shit on everyone.
Well, I've heard you like to take a little shit on people, so we'll move on from that. No, we'll move on from that. So
we'll come back to it later, though.
Of course, we'll return to it later. I wouldn't have it any other way. So
yeah, we will.
We're another week in lockdown life, thug life in lockdown. I hope everyone watching this is doing okay. I know your mental health is probably not in tip-top shape, because ours probably goes like this. So yeah, it's not a great time for people's mental health, but you know, we will get through this by watching Late Night Large on repeat. It's the only thing that can pick our spirits up. Perhaps if you have a friend you're worried about, perhaps you could share this link with them and maybe get them to click the little subscribe and the bell. I'm not saying that we're qualified practitioners of psychiatry or any kind of counselling, but it has been known that people who watch Lockdown Large or listen to the Late Night Large podcast, it picks their spirits up, you know? That's all I'm saying. So share the love, share the entertainment.
So basically, don't be an arsehole. Be a good friend. Be a good son, sister, cousin, auntie, friend, colleague. You know, be your best you and help those that may need your help. Even if you don't think they do. You know, share the love. Share the love.
Exactly. Spread us like herpes. We are the kind of absurdist topical debate comedy that everyone needs in their life. So let it be spread far and wide, please, people. Anyway, I was going to start with a bit of a somber reflection because, of course, you remember last week's episode, which we did dedicate to him. was talking about the fact that, oh dear, the symbol of national hope, Captain Tom, had gone into hospital. Obviously, in the interim, he has sadly passed away. We all know that. And yeah, it's very sad because obviously, as we said, Captain Tom seemed like a pretty decent human being, but more than that, he represented the kind of hope that, you know, if we were stoical and we stuck together and we were optimistic, we could get through this without too much damage. And here we are down the line, well over 100,000 deaths. Even Captain Tom, bless him, got claimed by the big bad COVID. But we'll try and find something else to feel positive about. Mike, this week, some of the big stories in the news related to lockdown, because of course, the biggest thing about lockdown is when are we getting out of it, or when is it being eased at all?
Oh,
And at the moment, it
yeah.
doesn't really look like any time soon, because the latest scores on the boards, luckily that, you know, the death count has plateaued and started to decline, not nearly as fast as we need it to, but it has started to decline. The cases are still really fucking high, to be fair. You know, you're looking at 15,000 confirmed cases every day at the moment still. And again, we go back to it. Are enough businesses closed? Are enough people on furlough? You know, it's all very well us blaming the odd puffin who's, you know, gone over to someone's house when they shouldn't and whatever. But are there bigger factors at work in keeping this rate artificially high? So that's the situation at the moment with the caseloads. A big story this week, Mike. Have your comment on
Yeah. Let's go.
this. So medical advisors, I presume SAGE are involved as well, have suggested there may need to be a rethink on where we thought we were with keeping the virus at bay. The reason being that the South African variant seems to have upset the apple cart somewhat. And obviously, what following on from that was the other big news that the Oxford vaccine, which we were kind of claiming credit for, because obviously that's the area we live in. So, you know, me and Mike were claiming credit that we developed that vaccine. Sadly, the lockdown large vaccine, as we lobbied for it to be called, is only around about 10% effective, apparently, against the South African variant. So, yeah, it's pretty much worthless against anyone who might have the South African variant. The medical community says perhaps we need to think again. What I imagine they mean about that is perhaps we need to stop the optimism that, oh, wow, aren't we doing amazing with the vaccine rollout, and think, oh, hold on a minute, even with lots and lots of vaccines, we might be in for a trickier journey out of this lockdown than we thought. Did you see that news, Mike, and what did you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I don't know. I try not to let, like, kind of, you see so much shit all the time, don't you? I just try not to let it bother me. I think to a degree, and I don't necessarily condone thinking this way about all things all the time, but what will be will be. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I've almost given up, like, caring anymore. Like, it's just what is life? No, I don't mean that. But no, the thing is, okay, so somebody said that the Oxford vaccine was, you know, it isn't the only vaccine that we have. It is not very effective against one of the variants. Okay, so the way I see it is, best case, that's actually bollocks, and it's fine. Not likely. Worst case, much more likely. Worst case really is just that actually we have to source some more of the other vaccines, and it puts us back a little bit. You know, so let's not. It doesn't represent like an end to our struggle against, you know, COVID. It's not like, you know, it's an inconvenience if, you know, if this is something that we do need to really kind of readdress our stance on, and the government probably will. It's an inconvenience, and yes, unfortunately, it will probably end up meaning that while we source alternate vaccines, things might get delayed a little bit. I don't know how many of the. Do you know actually how many of the? Is it 12 million now? They've had the first.
Hang on, I think I might be able to. I think I've got the vaccination rollout.
It's about 12 million have had the first one now.
Yeah, I think 12 million is about right. It gives it gives a daily count. It's just under 550,000 got done the last day of recording, which I presume is yesterday, 7th of February, on recording this, obviously. So it gives that estimate as 18% of the population. 18%.
But whatever. I'm saying it's 12 million. It's 12 million, right? That's it.
I've received the first dose. Yeah.
I've spoken. It's 12 million, right? So, yeah. So, 12. I don't know how many of those have been receiving the Oxford vaccine.
No, neither do I. I don't think there's any way of measuring which type of vaccine they get. Well, there probably is, but we're not privy to it.
We must know. They must know. The people administering it must know what vaccine they give it to people. So, you know, I suppose that the hope that if we do have to revaccinate these people that have already had some vaccines, I guess they probably have to wait a while, then get the first dose of a different vaccine, and then go through that whole cycle again. But you know, undoubtedly, it would probably put things back. But this was to be expected. It was never going to be smooth, plain sailing, was it?
Okay, let me ask you this though, Mike. Are you hearing that news? Does it make you a little bit angry though that the government still doesn't seem to have gotten a grip on closing the borders? Because that's how the South African variant has got into the country.
Yes, but I was already annoyed, concerned, however you want to put it. You know, I think the way, I think we've said it before, it's no secret, certainly no secret to anyone else. We don't need to tell people that for, you know, considering we're an island, obviously, well, the UK is, you know,
Great Britain.
We've great. Wow, Britain. Let's just call it Britain.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, let's just call it Britain. We've done a pretty shit job of closing ourselves off. I think it's inexcusable, to be honest. But I can't believe I'm saying this, and I'm saying it to you is the wrong person to, but we can sit and point fingers and place blame, but it probably won't help. But let's do it anyway because it make you feel better. So fuck you, Boris, wanker.
Well,
it's all your fault.
Well, no, Mike. I tell you what. I don't think I mentioned this at the time that it became news.
What?
Someone will have to correct me if I did, but I don't think I brought this up when it was first announced. But did you know that when Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, right, when she was asked about this, because obviously the Home Secretary is the one generally who has the power to impose border controls, etc. And she was questioned about it and said, why did, considering, you know, you keep banging on about refugees and we need to stop these people coming into the country and, you know, all the kind of stereotypes that get people's blood boiling about they're doing this, they're doing that. If you're so obsessed with closing the borders, why did we not close them like immediately? at the start of this pandemic when we realised how serious it was. And do you know what she said? And I don't think enough was made of this. She claimed that she made the argument for that. Now, I don't think she followed it, but what that means is that she made the claim and she was overruled. And she can only be overruled by the Prime Minister. So Boris Johnson, basically, again, because the press is so much on the Conservative Party side, this was not made a big deal. I tell you what, if Corbyn had done it, fucking hell. You know, people have been calling for him to be hanging from Tower Bridge. But the bottom line is, the Home Secretary was questioned about why she didn't order the borders to be closed as soon as it was clear how bad the pandemic was. And she responded that she wanted to, and she made the suggestion. Think about what that means. It means she was literally trying to save her ass by throwing her boss under the bus. And nobody seemed to make a big deal out of it. She was saying that Boris Johnson had deliberately overruled her and kept the borders open. And he still hasn't explained why the hell he did that. And, you know me, I generally, I follow politics to a certain degree to figure out what's going on and why and when. And, you know, we're both cynics. We look at things and then we apply Occam's razor and we come to the most obvious conclusion. Usually corruption is usually the explanation. But I'm scratching my head time and time again thinking, why have they not just closed the borders? It just boggles my mind. And Johnson, I think, was asked this question a couple of weeks back or something, and he gave this, you know, the usual waffling rubbish for an answer, but he sort of he seemed to imply like, oh, it's complicated, you wouldn't understand, it's not as simple as just closing the borders, we can't just close borders. And I think he tried to imply that if we close the borders we wouldn't be able to receive like food or anything, to which you're like, hang on, I don't think you need to have a great knowledge of, you know, haulage and whatever to realize that it's completely different allowing haulage trucks and rail and whatever freight to get through and people to get over the border. Like, you know, you're the party that's obsessed with people getting over the border when they shouldn't be, and now it's like, oh, it's too difficult to close the borders down. And again, if we had a functioning media holding them to account, sure, you know, they'd be asking that day after day. Don't get me wrong, if there's a good explanation, I want to hear it. But what I don't want to hear is a party that keeps banging on and on about, oh, people are coming over the borders, there's too many, oh, we can't control our borders, it was the EU's fault. And then we've got a situation where we need to close the borders, like immediately, so we can get control of this virus. And all I hear is excuses and just waffle from Johnson. Oh, you don't understand, it's not that easy. Well, we're not all simple people, Boris. We don't need slogans. Try and explain to us what's so complicated about closing the borders, and then we'll understand why you've allowed the South African variant in the country.
Yeah, okay. I agree with basically everything you said. However, you've just, I was going to say implied, but you haven't. You actually just straight out said that we aren't stupid.
Yeah, I mean,
the
royal
you might understand if he explained, if he rang you up and said, Aaron, yeah, so this is the reason why I couldn't close the border. You'd probably get it. If he rang me, I'd say, what do you want, you fat cunt? But then I'd get it.
Yeah, okay, point taken. When I use the royal we, I meant we first and foremost as late at large.
Yeah. To be fair, actually,
because
this. Go on.
I was going to say we should be on the end of the hotline. You know, we need to be involved at the sharp end of this, because we need to put out to people what's really going on. So, sorry, what's really growing on. So, to be honest, I think we should be emissaries for this kind of thing. You know, the government, forget the slogans, give it to Late Night Large. We'll project it to the people. We know what the people want to hear.
Yep. No, I think you're right. But I also think that perhaps actually then perhaps we should be put in place as some sort of I don't know what you'd call it, but Boris would have to run things past us. So if so actually he's accountable to us, really. So he would have to ring up and explain to us and say, look, I'm not going to close the borders. This is why. Is that all right? And we'd say, okay, of course it's not all right, you bumbling fucking idiot. And or we'd say, yeah, cool, Boris, no doubt. I think that's what basically fuck off government as we know it. You know where I'm going with this.
Oh, I know where you're going. So, yeah, I'll let you be Prime Minister. I'm not really in it for the ego. As long as I'm either do I want to be your advisor or do I want to be like the Chancellor of the Exchequer? I'll decide later. But the bottom line is, we are, Late Night Large and Lockdown Large as a subsidiary, we are the emissaries of the people. This is our function. And when I use the royal we, as well as Lockdown Large, I was referring to people with critical thinking ability. So not people who were necessarily brain boxes or political anoraks, just people who ask questions, get answers, process the answers, and then say, hang on, I think I smell bullshit here. I'm not thick. Can you give me a better explanation than that? Because that sounds a little bit fishy.
See, the problem there is you're actually talking about 5% of the population, aren't you?
Okay, point taken. So yeah, that's the position we're in. Johnson, like I say, I can't believe it wasn't a bigger story, but the Home Secretary has effectively admitted that she wanted the borders closed. Boris Johnson said no, and yet the media has allowed Boris Johnson to just bullshit and obfuscate. He's not given a satisfactory answer yet as to why he hasn't closed the borders. And don't get me wrong, I'd be the first to say, fair play, Boris. I know I don't like him at all as a person, but if he gives us it straight, gives us an explanation that makes sense, because yeah, things aren't necessarily that simple. If you said close the borders for any other reason other than a pandemic, I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? You can't just close the border. But the one thing you would think you have to absolutely get the worst case scenario border closed immediately would be to stop the spread of an infectious disease. And yet here we are, still not with a satisfactory explanation. Home Secretary threw our Prime Minister under the bus. So the South African variant apparently is now in the UK. I don't know whether it was localized, wasn't it? London and the outer areas of London, like Surrey and places like that. Hopefully it hasn't spread further than that. It shouldn't have. And if it has, you assholes, you've done a Dominic Cummings and you've been traveling everywhere, haven't you? So fingers crossed it will remain there. But unfortunately, like most lockdown larges, that's not a great piece of news to have at the moment, just when we're feeling a bit more optimistic about the vaccine rollout and things like that, that there's now a potentially a variant that could be, or rather the Oxford vaccine could be ineffective against. So we'll have to see what they come up with, if they finally learn some lessons and come up with a proper plan for this one. And who knows, maybe the borders might actually be closed sometime in our lifetime. Mike, other bad news, and I don't want to end it on all bad news, but the other bad news, and I know you don't want to talk about this too much, but it is part of lockdown in that it will be reality we all have to face when lockdown's over. Particularly the Haulage Association has reported a 68% drop in exports due to new Brexit trading rules. And more worryingly for me is there seems to be echoes of the Troubles just stirring a little bit in Northern Ireland. There's been unionist graffiti spotted, and they even had to stand down border staff recently because of threats, both implicit and explicit, on border officials from paramilitary groups. Now, I don't even know if you're old enough to remember this, Mike, but when I grew up, the Troubles were still ongoing, and it was only when I became an adult that they were, the peace process had happened. And remember, there's people in Northern Ireland, like young people in Northern Ireland, they don't know what the Troubles are. That's over 20 years ago. And to get to the stage where now, and people were warned about it time and time again, and even after Brexit, the warning was, keep us in the customs union. If you want to exit the single market, cut your nose off to spite your face, fine. Stay in a customs union, and that limits the damage and the potential, flaring up of tensions related to the Good Friday Agreement. They ignored that, and I've discussed this before. The reason they ignored it is because they wanted to sell us out to America. Luckily, that hasn't happened, mainly because Trump got booted out of office. I'm sure they're still trying to sell us out as we speak. I know that they're trying to sign us up to CPTPP, which is a horrendous trade deal. I'm not sure if that will happen because it's technically with the Asian and Oceanian countries. So I think distance might be a little bit of an issue there. But yeah, I don't know what you think about that, Mike. Stirrings in Northern Ireland. That's not very positive, is it?
There may be trouble. Yeah, it's not good, is it? It's not good. I think it's just one of many appallingly managed kind of things with the whole ordeal. I mean, one thing I'm slightly more. You touched on it. Slightly more kind of. I don't know if I don't want to sound overly optimistic because, I'm not really about anything actually anymore.
Not the only one.
But I think we might not end up selling ourselves out so hard to the Yanks now. But Biden said, didn't he, that he doesn't actually. He doesn't want anything to do with us until we sort our shit out.
Yeah.
Which actually is probably a good thing, because by which time, we'd have sorted our shit out, and we might actually be in a bit of a better place to actually negotiate something better than the bumming that we'd have had at Trump's hands. So.
Oh God, yeah.
Basically, what I'm saying is, our pants have been pulled down. We're bent over the table, and
are we going to have lubricant?
Now might have a little bit of time just to try and put them back up again. We may have to turn around and drop to our knees, most likely, but at least there's more of a chance now we won't get completely sodomized by the Yanks.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. No, it's a good point. It's good to seize on any positive, even if it's kind of a negative as well, because I know there's some people who are desperate for a big deal with a country, but unfortunately these people tend to be unthinking. For anyone who's not aware, America sodomizes every country it does a deal with, right? We are a tiny country compared to America's market. What do you think we have that America wants? As soon as you think about it for about 30 seconds, you'll understand that we're not going to get an upgraded lifestyle or a booming economy because of America. What we're going to get is exactly what Mike said. Pants down, going in dry. Now, yeah, luckily, this is the horrendous thing though, Mike, that Brexit's thrown up, is that I'm actually slightly thankful that there's stirrings of the Troubles, and that's terrible. I don't want anything to happen in Ireland, but as long as that's there, Biden and the Irish lobby are going to be looking at us with, stink eye, Like, you're going to sort this out then? Because this doesn't look very good for the Good Friday Agreement. You're not going to get any positives to trade with us until this is resolved. Because, and again, I don't want to oversimplify it, but it's so frustrating to think that all of this potentially could have been avoided with a customs union. So for anyone who wasn't aware, that what I believe and a lot of other people believe is the reason that we exited both of the trading block things we were in with the EU, the single market and the customs union. The main reason we exited the single market was because the Tories made Brexit all about ending freedom of movement. Now, whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, I think we can all agree that without the hysteria about immigration, Leave wouldn't have won. So to be fair, even though I think it's a terrible thing for the country, I think there's a logic in that. Exiting the single market, ending freedom of movement, they consider that that was at least a tangible thing that they could say to Brexiters that, look, this has changed, we don't accept freedom of movement. So fine, I accept that. There was no good reason to exit the customs union unless you tie it to the fact that American multinationals and the parasites in their lobbying groups said, if you're in a customs union with the EU, we're not going to do any kind of a deal with you. So to me, we only exited it to jump straight into bed and get sodomized by Trump. Now that Trump's not in charge, thank God, Biden looks at it not first of all with international diplomacy rather than trade. So he'll look at it and say, no, I'm not going to, we know it would be a sodomizing for us, but it's like, I'm not going to make you look good in the press with a big trade deal while the fucking troubles have restarted in Ireland. So, and the point is this issue with, and again, I'm not exaggerating because the troubles haven't restarted. That's not what I'm saying. There's just rumbles, worrying things that we haven't seen for a long time, threats, little murmurings, graffiti, people being arrested. It's just the signs are not great at the moment. So it's amazing to think that we risked that to sell us out to the US, and now the US won't accept that anyway. But we've gone so far now that it's going to be really embarrassing for the government to admit we should really be in a customs union. Because the reason the customs union solves that, Mike, is if we're in the EU customs union, then it solves the whole different trading areas thing. Because the problem with Northern Ireland at the moment is they have to stay in the customs union so there's frictionless across the border with the Republic. But we're not in the customs union. We chose to remove ourselves, extricate ourselves entirely from the customs union. So we've got this weird internal union with Northern Ireland, but everything has to be checked on arriving across the sea. And this is where the tensions are coming, because supermarket shelves are remaining empty, checks are taking a lot longer, some businesses are really struggling. So tensions are going up in Ireland. And then you've got the loony unionists who are obsessed with saying, Northern Ireland's British, it's not Irish, it's British, we belong to Britain. But then they're looking at it and going, well, we're in the same customs union as Ireland, but we're in a completely different trading area to the UK. And we're struggling to get anything across the sea from the UK to Northern Ireland. So they think they've been sold down the river, which they have been, because Boris Johnson, again, has lied to all parties at once. How many times has he said there's no border in the Irish Sea?
Yeah. Well, I don't. With a bit smallest amount of foresight, you could have seen it coming, couldn't you? And we did see it coming. Let's just hope that things can be kind of, I guess, for now, paved over, and then when we're in a position to get our ducks in a row, that actually we can do something that's appeases any tensions that we could have avoided but have brought upon ourselves.
What I'm most
Time will tell.
Sorry, Mike. What I most hope will happen, I guess, if I was to say what would hope would be the way we deal with this is ultimately we need to go back into a customs union, and the only way they're going to do that is by calling it something else. So what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to admit this isn't working, it's causing too many problems. The US is no longer going to, deal with what we were hoping. We need to stop the troubles restarting. We need to stop a reunified Ireland. Let's go back into the EU customs union, but say that it's like a bespoke customs union that's special for a third country, just so we can sell it to the batshit crazy right-wing media, and then that's it. I don't know. Maybe I'm asking too much.
I don't think they're going to admit that they shouldn't have left customs union. I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, that's what I say. They'll try and call it something different.
Yeah. I mean, that's more likely. Will you're going to let us? Are we going to get away with just calling it something different, or even negotiating something that is basically the same, but like you say, with a different name?
I know what you're saying, Mike. I totally know what you're saying, but what I would also say is, although the EU has every reason to want to spite us, what they don't want is threats to the integrity of their single market. And being back in a customs union would solve a lot of issues with what's happening in Ireland, which would calm everyone down. Well, I don't know. Is it logical?
Yeah, I mean, all I mean is, they wouldn't have wanted us to have left the customs union in the first place, but they're not going to do us any favors, are they? So that we may be able to negotiate some form of customs union, but it's going to be probably less favorable than so basically, like you said, I think before, cut our nose off to spite our face.
I think the only thing I would say is I completely agree with your logic. The only thing I would say is, rather than this just being us going back cap in hand and saying, listen, sorry about all those things we said and did, and we want to be back in a customs union. The thing that we have on our side is that there is an EU member state involved, so the Republic. So if the Republic say, listen, can't we let bygones be bygones? This is better for everyone. That's what I'm hoping anyway. That could potentially happen. Anyway, hopefully it won't get any worse, the situation. We've got Michael Gove in charge of it, so I don't hold much hope, but who knows? He might change the habit of a lifetime. Final story, Mike, I thought I'd end on, and it's not a great story.
Wait, sorry, do we do great stories?
No, we don't at the moment. No. I thought I'd bring this up, Mike, because there's not many stories that I read, because you read stories about, oh, this person broke the rules, this person did something else that contravened the rules, and usually you look at them and you go, yeah, you were a bit of a twat. But I have a lot of sympathy for people in certain circumstances. If you're a dickhead who's held a party for 50 people, go fuck yourself. You deserve what's coming to you. If you've gone to see your partner and there was another person there or something, or you've gone for a walk 20 miles from your house outside, to me it's like, well, fuck's sake, people's mental health, they go crazy. Sometimes you need to risk these things, whatever. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But some things you see, and not only are they really fucking stupid and selfish, but they lead to really horrible consequences. And this is this story that I read, and I'll be interested to see your reaction for this, right? Read this today. This is a story that I think must have developed fairly recently, right? So two men, right? Two men who were, I'm trying to find how old they were, middle-aged men. I forget how old it said they were. Okay. So anyway, I swear I read somewhere that these were men in their middle-aged men. So they travelled more than 100 miles to the Lake District. So immediately that's contradicting coronavirus regulations completely. Not only did they take a 100-mile trip to the Lake District, they then decided to go hiking and camping in sub-zero temperatures, right? So at the moment you're thinking, I'm sure you're thinking, what a bunch of idiots. It gets worse. So they went open air camping in sub-zero conditions. One of them started having chest pains. They called, I don't know if they called the emergency services or the Coast Guard, whoever comes to mountain rescue. So they called for assistance. One of them was having chest pains. The guy who came, the first guy, I guess, who came to rescue them ended up falling 150 meters off the side of a mountain where he was trying to reach them and has sustained life-changing injuries, probably paralyzed. 60-year-old guy. And because of that, the police have put out a warning for people not to do this. So I wanted your thoughts on this, Mike. Like, what level of grotesque masturbatory self-interest do you have to think it's appropriate to travel 100 miles away from where you live in the middle of a pandemic to go open air camping and hiking in the Lake District? And because of your actions, you've potentially led to someone getting paralyzed.
Yeah. I mean, I know I can obviously tell what your thoughts are by your tone, but it's pretty inexcusable. To be fair, look, I'm sure if you spoke to them, they'd have their reasons. I can't see why. Well, do you know what? Actually, it sounds horrible, but I'm actually kind of glad that they're gonna have to live with some sort of guilt now as a result. You know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So they probably deserve that. Look, if people want to go out and do things because they maybe they needed to, they drastically needed. Okay, did they need to go to that extent? Do you need to travel 100 miles and go upside of a mountain and camp open air? No. You really need to go to your nearest bit of fucking go and fucking camp in a field somewhere or something. Like if you need to. They might say, well, look, we couldn't have known that he was going to get chest pains and these, it wasn't our intention. No, but
but
still, what the fuck? What are you thinking?
I guess the biggest problem I had with it, Mike, was it was kind of stupidity and selfishness layered on top of each other. Like, you can almost excuse individual aspects of it, like 100 miles, that's ridiculous. But then their argument would be, we were in the open air, we were never going to come into contact with anyone else. So if you're really generous, you say, no harm done. When you start saying we were climbing mountains and stuff, it's like, hold on, what's that got to do with your mental health? Why do you need to climb mountains?
People might do.
No,
because do that sort of thing.
No, because as soon as you start climbing mountains, Mike, you are potentially putting the emergency services on call. Anyone is, if they climb a mountain of any kind. And people have been told, do not take up the emergency services time during a pandemic. So you are immediately putting yourself under that risk. And the thing that made it for me was open air camping in the coldest spell of the year. I mean, I'm sorry. Who the fuck does that?
I don't know I don't know how experienced they are. with this sort of thing. They might do that sort of stuff all the time under normal circumstances.
Yeah, I can kind of
know, they
picture
might be
the kind of bellends who did it. Yeah.
Yeah, they might be completely prepared for anything they may have come across, other than things they can't possibly plan and prepare for, like chest pains. So look, I'm not excusing them. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah. All right.
I'm not excusing them. It's a fucking stupid thing to do.
Like you say, I think you made a fair point though. Although it's horrendous for the guy who had the accident and his family, obviously, you'd hope that they have to live with that now the rest of their lives. And to be honest, I think if they had any pride, because let's face it, if they do that kind of thing, they're probably going to have a bit of money. If they have any pride, I would be donating some money to his family to help him probably with the medical costs he's going to need now when he's in a wheelchair or whatever he's going to end up as. Because this is not, we went on a holiday, something went wrong. This is, we're in a pandemic. You've been told not to take up the emergency services time. You went out on the coldest, pretty much the coldest weekend of the year. You've now caused this. This was your actions that led to it because you thought you were indestructible. And just to finish, if you say they probably thought they had everything covered, they could have dealt with any situation except chest pains. Well, I'm just going to say next time, take yourself a little Bowie knife. If your partner has chest pains, finish him off cleanly and quickly. Throw him over the edge. He knew the risks. Hey, if you're going to take the risk, fucking be a man about it. Say it's my time. Off you go off the edge. I'll sort your funeral out. We'll give you a lovely funeral. Good to know you. Anyway,
yeah, lovely.
It's another cheery lockdown large. Anything to add, Mike, before we disappear for the week again?
I don't think so. Just the usual, really. We've covered it before, haven't we? It's the whole like, subscribe, tell Aaron he's a prick. Do all this good stuff that will help you. I promise you all now. This is a promise, okay? From me to you. If you type an abusive message to Aaron, call him a wanker, something like that, you will feel better. I promise it will make you feel better. So do that.
It will make you feel even better.
Also, if you're an attractive young lady and you want to slide into my messages, do that too. That'll make you feel better. Do what you need to do, but do like, subscribe, tell everyone, listen to Lockdown Large Extra Time if you haven't done so already. We have a couple out there now. We'll keep them coming. If you like this, you'll love that. Even if you don't like this, you'll love that. And in fact, I don't give a fuck if you like it or not. Listen. So but do be aware of it. If you haven't checked that out yet, it's worth a squirt, definitely.
Yeah, very well put, Mike. And yeah, by all means, leave an abusive comment for this clown as well. Remember, we also have a podcast. So we have a podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. So check out that. Check out Lockdown Large Extra Time. And we will see you next time, people.